The Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.
Okay, we're here today with none other than Hugo and Amy from Priscilla Bacon. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about Priscilla Bacon to start with? Then we'll perhaps touch on a bit of backgrounds for both of you, and then we'll go in a bit more detail about the charity and what we get up to.
Absolutely. So the Priscilla Bacon Hospice charity, we most recently fundraised for and built the new Priscilla Bacon Lodge, which is built next to the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital. We raised £14.3 million to build this facility and have been open for...
Sorry to pause you, but 14.3, that's a staggering sum, isn't it? And obviously I've heard it enough over the year, but for our listeners, £14.3 million. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, if we were showing off, we'd say it's the largest sum raised in the shortest period in Norfolk, but we don't want to show off. It's not like...
Oh, wow. I can quite imagine that is.
It's the important thing is it was the reaction of the community to the project and how the vast majority of those funds came from Norfolk, the wider community, whether it was pennies in collection tins through to £1 million donations. And it was the community pulling together, the people of Norfolk pulling together that made it a reality.
Staggering. Sorry to interrupt this. Yeah. So what does Priscilla Bacon do in a nutshell, I guess?
So at Priscilla Bacon Lodge, we provide end-of-life care. And so that's for someone with a terminal diagnosis, a life-limiting condition. So we're not at the point of trying to cure somebody. We are supporting them through that end-of-life journey. And ideally, we would come into contact with them as quickly as possible so we can support them with their conditions, helping them to live the best possible life with that diagnosis, and then supporting end of life as well, whether that's on the inpatient unit or in the community. It's something that we are very passionate about, and we want to ensure that we provide the best level of care at Priscilla Bacon Lodge.
And what's your role, Amy, in the...
So my role is looking after the corporate fundraisers mainly, and then driving our own events that we hold within the hospice as well. So that's from quiz nights for staff, internal events for volunteers, to our summer fair and Christmas fair we do as well. And that's with the nursing team as well.
And I know you've been involved now
6.5 years.
And you, Amy, not so long?
Yeah, just over a year now. Yeah.
So I was there from an empty office with some plans and a laptop and a pencil or something from my bag, I think, really.
But presumably Priscilla Bacon was in existence prior to you.
So the original Priscilla Bacon Lodge that opened in 1979. Its original site on Plank Road at the Coleman Hospital site. And when it opened, it was one of the first hospices in the country. Fundraising started just 10 years after the first hospice of the modern hospice movement, which is St Christopher's in South East London. And it was lucky that Priscilla, Lady Bacon, knew Dame Cicely Saunders, who founded the hospice movement, and was so impressed by what she'd done, she thought Norfolk should benefit from a hospice. And that was the starting point of the connection with the Bacon family and the hospice movement in Norfolk.
Is there anything else the Bacon family are known for in Norfolk?
They have a wonderful home, Raveningham Hall, down in Raveningham. And each year, they open their gardens with a variety of days through the year, but through the month of February, they've got beautiful snowdrops. And that connection with snowdrops explains the motif of our logo.
Yeah.
Because Priscilla, Lady Bacon, was a Galanthiophile, which is a...
No idea.
Word of the day. That's a snowdrop specialist. Yeah. And she found...
Oh, right. Not just the flower spectres. There is such...
there's snowdrops. She had snowdrops that she discovered, cold to us, and there are a snowdrop named after Priscilla. And she used to take the snowdrops into the facility to give to patients and brighten up rooms. So,
nice.
Yeah, nice. Very good.
So take me back really to perhaps if we can start with you, Amy. What were you doing prior to doing this, and what have you been up to?
So prior to this, I've always been in events, in the event sector. So I was at the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce doing events management there.
I knew that now. Yes.
So running the flagship events there. So, and then prior to that was wedding and event planning. So which was very interesting, especially around COVID.
Oh, I bet.
That was an interesting challenge. Yes. Yeah. So through that, really, I've grown up. Born and bred in Norwich, lived in Attleborough and the surrounding villages. So yes, that's where I've been.
And how did you find Amy, or did you?
We needed to expand our team after we'd completed the capital phase of the fundraising. So once the new hospice was open, our fundraising flipped from building a hospice to our current model. And we have a very unusual model. That Priscilla Bacon Lodge core care was funded by the NHS and then delivered through Norfolk Community Health and their NHS Trust. And we, as the charity, we funded the building, we lease it to the NHS for peppercorn rents, and then we provide the enhancements that are not covered by poor NHS funding. So with that, we have enhanced catering, which involve chefs preparing freshly cooked meals. We have a garden looking after the 8-acre side. We provide bereavement counselling, whether that mainly is for light touch, drop-in sessions, one counselling. We fund a music therapist, an art therapist, and most recently a bloodshed mental service, which are policy massage therapy, non-clinical interventions that improve well-being. And so we need to fund all these additional services. My analogy is that the core care is like a cake and we're the icing on top.
Very nice analogy there. So take me back to the start, Hugo, of when we first met. You were obviously trying to raise that staggering amount. How did you even think you were going to achieve it back then? Because I'm sure, if it weren't for some of the larger donations, you would have been struggling, I'm sure. But equally, there was, it was an amazing, charity that everybody had heard of as a lot. It is whatever it was. But tell me how you climbed that mountain, if you like.
Yes, it was. Mountain is a great way of putting at it, because I joined in the late summer of 2018 when we were setting up the fundraising campaign. The charity had been established through the legal processes, and we then were setting up, creating the collateral, website, all these things ready to launch. And as soon as the planning was formally confirmed, we were able to launch in February 2019. And yes, we had some pledges by that point of donors, supporters who had said that, if this project is going to happen, we will put in certain sums of money. So when we launched, we had in the region of 3 million pledged. Wow. But we had a long way to go. So
you didn't know the total then, though, did you, Bob?
We were working on a figure of 12.5 million. Over the course of the campaign, we did lose a bit of time due to this little thing called COVID. And however, we broadly kept on our planned timeline. In terms of the costs, we were very lucky. We managed to agree a fixed price contract on Christmas Eve 2021. So we were all celebrating that, not knowing that in February, the world would change when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Oh, right. I thought you were going to say about the pandemic change.
No. This was post-pandemic with Russia invading Ukraine.
I imagine, though, getting a fixed price contract was difficult in itself in that time, because obviously prices were drastically changed post-pandemic, and certainly the construction industry was in turmoil.
Yes. We had to revise initial designs, but in fact, there was a benefit of that. That this during COVID, infection control measures changed. So spaces around beds, things like that changed. So we could adapt the design still and take that into control. Because if we built this amazing new building and it wasn't up to the changed spec,
it would
it
have
would be a
been
nightmare. And so the building, if there was another mass pandemic like COVID, we could cope much better with this new building. Each of the inpatient bedrooms have direct access to the garden, which is wonderful for the patients because the beds on the inpatient ward can be wheeled outside, so people have private garden space, can feel the sun on their skin. But also, if they had visitors, they could come to the individual doorway and go into an individual room without
rescue as a home.
cross infection.
So, what sort of things were done in those early stages to really generate awareness, stroke, income?
It was a huge beast to launch because the name Priscilla Bacon Lodge was synonymous with end-of-life care in Norfolk for over 40 years. But after the initial fundraising took place back in 77 to 79, at that point the building was gifted to the NHS on the proviso that core care was funded. So there wasn't an active charity having to fundraise. Most hospices in the country have to actively fundraise to cover their core costs. The average statutory funding for hospices ranges from 25 to 33%. And that means that they have to raise multiple millions every year to deliver care, as well as any capital costs they have. East Anglia Children's Hospice, they only get 15% statutory funding. And so they have to raise huge sums just to deliver care.
Yeah. So, what was the bulk of the work done? Events, that sort of thing. Where did it mainly? Obviously, apart from the big benefit.
We threw ourselves into everything, and ultimately, with a large capital campaign like that, you will receive the greatest support from major donors and trusts that have been set up to support charitable endeavours. During the course of the campaign, we were incredibly lucky because on 3 occasions we had £1 million donations.
I remember one morning you come in and say, "Oh my God, we've just been offered £1 million."
And one of those came from the beauty of Norfolk, the connected nature of Norfolk, whereby post-pandemic, late in 21, we'd struggled with low-level fundraising. We hadn't had bucket collections at supermarkets. We hadn't had coffee mornings. We hadn't had all those things which people love to be involved with, getting money to the charity. And so we needed to get to the £8 million point to commit to breaking ground.
Got it, yeah.
So we worked out that if every adult in Norfolk and Waveney committed just £3 to us, we could get to that point of breaking ground. So we launched a campaign called £3 to Break Ground, funnily enough. And with that sort of 1 degree of separation that you have in Norfolk, we managed to speak with Stephen Fry, who made a video for us, which was really nice and supportive. That went...
I've got to get him on this show, actually. I can't guarantee. Well, have you got any contacts there? I'm trying to get him in.
So he made this video that went out on his social feed. So it literally went around the world. And we were then getting donations from all over the world because of his shout out. But the most significant element to that was that a trust who we didn't know about had previously not supported hospices. They'd supported the equine industries. A member of their staff followed Stephen Fry, and they found out about us because of Stephen Fry's video. And they looked into us. At that stage, we had a tiny team. There were 2.6 members of staff. And through their investigations, they thought we were a really good project to back. And so they made contact with us through negotiations. They gave us £1 million. And yeah, it was ROI. It was remarkable.
Yeah.
And so
Interesting, these they call it influencer marketing these days, don't they? How they say that is so good. But that's an example of influencer marketing without really calling it that or putting a name on it. But
that's to me, that's Norfolk being supportive.
Yeah,
it's that you can reach out in Norfolk through either a direct contact or an indirect contact to make a relationship with someone with that introduction.
Yeah.
And that is one of the beauties of Norfolk. And it helps us in charity, like it helps businesses, because you have those networks that you can instantly utilize.
So perhaps onto Amy, what can businesses expect if they're linked with or raise money for anything relating to Priscilla Bacon?
Yeah, of course. So we've got part of our corporates, we've got the 500 Club. So that's where we want to build a business membership, a community, all collaborating with one another. So you could get fundraising. So Mark last year did 100 miles on a bike ride. There's free to your golf days, just quiz nights, coffee mornings. But also some businesses give us back kindness. So they'll offer us marketing advice, free print.
I think you sometimes do volunteering as well.
Volunteering days, that's in with the retail or in our garden. So we just want to bring that as, it's both of us working together. On top of that, we do networking events as well. So a breakfast, we're looking at bringing a few more socials down the year as well. So it's just collaborating with one another and getting the key message out, really.
Yeah. So I guess that would be beneficial if we can find you some businesses who would like to be, either your charity of the year or charity or join the 500 Club. I've certainly attended quite a few of your networking events. They're always a good turnout. But is there anything specific? I don't know, if someone was maybe doing something for charity or wanting a charity to do something for, are there any specific events going on this year that maybe
so we have fundraising events. So we've got our summer fair, which you can all get involved with. On top of that, we've got running events, so you can run and fundraise for us. Golf days coming up. We're going to be doing a quiz night later in the year. It's just all collaborative, working across with one another, really. So
it's good.
It's working with a business as you work in the conventional business world.
Absolutely.
Charities are a business.
Of course they are.
We're the business of raising money to deliver our remit. And so we have to consider ourselves like a business, and you make sure it works for both parties. So for the businesses that haven't got a large workforce, there may be a service they can offer. Mark with MT Communications, he has provided beneficial rates for the charity for some of our comms.
Yeah.
And it's things like that a business can give back.
It's not necessarily money, is it?
They're not having to donate money. They can donate services, sponsorship for events. Ultimately, if businesses would like their name associated with one of our events during the year, it saves money for us. It means we can return more into the business, and with that, the business who's supporting us will get the recognition for supporting an event that potentially has hundreds of people coming. And when it's advertised across our database and network, that's exposing it to thousands and thousands of people. So it's an easy way that a business can support us. Doesn't require time and energy and running around doing a 10K race, as you might know about, Danny.
Yeah, I think I was stupid enough to put my hand up for that once, but I think we ran together a little bit.
Yeah, pretty in pink. That's
fine. That's right. I think, you just held the t-shirt. Oh, pink, I like that. I'll do that. Yeah. What is it I've just put my hand up for?
Obi Senko as well.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So have you got any kind of stories really about the good work you do, and the way it benefits so many people? Because I've certainly heard so many stories over the years, not just from Hugo, but from, people who've actually had to unfortunately use the service. Can you tell us a bit more about the day-to-day of what people really need from how people use it, if you like.
Yeah, so for example, we had a family last summer. The daughter was going to prom, and her mother desperately wanted to see her daughter get ready. So we arranged it with the team that would bring a hairstylist in, a makeup artist, and the daughter could get ready with her mother in the room, and then decorations, and the family all got together, and then a friend came along, and they were all in the garden having photos taken, and then they went off in a really lovely car. And it's just treasuring those special moments with the families.
Yeah.
It's
And that just
creating those.
it's creating
opportunities
those
and creating the memories.
And I think you was telling me about the food the other week, just how much of a difference that makes to someone.
Yeah.
Imagine if you are on your last few weeks, months, whatever it may be.
To have a dish that you really want, whether it's a birthday cake to celebrate an occasion.
Yeah.
There was
did steak and chips the other week as well for a gentleman's dip. Yeah, that's what he wanted, and
that's like why not? We can do that. The drinks trolley goes around every day.
Yeah.
What sort of drinks? The nicest. Everything from decent single malt through there's beers and.
I literally thought you were meant tea and coffee.
No. Why not?
Yeah.
The concept is to be as homely as possible. That environment to be as homely as possible. So if you like a glass of Baileys after supper, you have a glass of Baileys. You want to have a beer with your lunch, you have a beer.
Yeah.
Why not?
And the nice thing as well, with the cafe environment, friends, relatives, they can all sit together.
Absolutely. And it's lovely to see. You hear the laughter. It is a place of sadness in the sense of people are spending their final days there. But it is a place of happiness when families are together and you see them eating, you hear them laughing, and to have that environment where you feel warm, comfortable, can have a meal together. It's such a wonderful thing. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had our third wedding of the year, wasn't it?
We did, yeah.
And weddings. So we're not hiring space down you. Or this is for patients who are on the ward. And so a couple decided to get married, and it was announced on it was a Tuesday evening.
It was, yeah.
And by the Wednesday lunchtime, cake had been prepared by chef and decorated. You'd gone out, bought flowers, decorations, and then by 5 p.m. So they sent up or out.
The grinds and the bakery really done for that.
Yeah. And why not? We can do this, and it makes a difference. And the cost of a cake, the cost of some flowers and decorations, what does that matter compared to the difference it makes to the patient, but also the family, their children? Those are photos and memories they will always treasure. So this is what we can do and can mobilize really quickly.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the financials, yearly, annually, what contributes, what you do get from the NHS and vice versa, what you need to keep going, if you like, annually.
So as I say, core care is covered by the NHS. And so that is many millions that is covering the core care. We, as a charity in fundraising, we need to bring in £1 million a year for supporting these elements that we have mentioned, the therapies, the gardens, the catering. They're all costs, but they're all costs that we believe are fully necessary. And that £1 million is to deliver what we're doing now. We have plans of bringing in new services once we can confirm the fundraising for them. And we have a strategic 3-year plan where we will continue to introduce more services. And for things like bereavement service, we want to be extending it out into the community. The beauty of Norfolk is we're connected. A challenge in Norfolk is rural social isolation.
Yeah.
And if we can take some of our bereavement services to the edges of the county, it's easier for people to access them there rather than having to come into the facility in Norwich. So there's plenty to do. I keep saying £1 million is attainable. We haven't got to raise those core costs, and we recognise how incredibly lucky we are. But the difference that we're making with that £1 million is tangible every day that we're in work. We're seeing the difference. Patients, families are telling us about the difference it makes to have those lovely gardens where the bed can be wheeled outside. It's those differences that mean the world to the patients and their loved ones.
What about capacity? I know you talked recently about potentially being able to increase.
So
what is it now? And
we in the old facility, there were 16 beds in the inpatient unit. We have 24, so 50% more. So we are seeing more people. A really interesting statistic when we analysed the data from our first year is that 26% of our patients actually return to their place of primary care. So coming onto the inpatient unit is not necessarily final days. There's pain control, there's symptom control, and with those, when people are stable again, they can go back home or perhaps to the nursing home where they were, with the correct levels of care being delivered in the community. So that was a really interesting statistic. So even with that, we're able to help more people rather than it being considered a long stay unit that once you've come in, you don't go. And through the outpatients facility, again, helping more people with the different kinds of classes we do, ranging from some which are purely social. And again, there's a drop-in and chat session, and there's one chap who's terminally ill who's been coming for over 10 years.
He's helped with this,
And people, we're supporting him through his illness. He loves coming in. He's a lovely chap. And, there are other more practical classes, breathlessness clinic, teaching techniques for, preventing unnecessary hospital admissions. There's physio sessions, there's wellbeing sessions. There's lots of things to help people to live with their condition. And, ultimately we want to increase capacity as much as possible to help more people.
Obviously, it sounds like a really small amount of beds, isn't it? 24.
But again,
as you say, they're not in there indefinitely. They're not by any stretch of the imagination, but presumably it's always full.
We are
and
pretty much always full.
If there is a sort of waiting list, or is there, how does that work?
Unfortunately, in reality, there is a waiting list. We will have helped reduce that waiting list with increased capacity, but we could never account for the entire need. And that need is fluid. And when a bed becomes available, it is offered to the person who has the greatest need at that time. So yes, there are sad times when we can't help everybody.
No.
But we
and
do.
Who makes those unfortunate decisions?
Thankfully, not me. I'd be crying every day.
Well, I can imagine.
But it's the medical teams have to make these ultimate
and are most
decisions.
Move from the hospital across? Or?
Some are from home, some are from nursing homes, some are from the hospital. And yes, people can have a good death at the hospital. However, the difference of a hospice is making the difference between dying and having the best possible death. We can't change the outcome, but we can help change how it happens.
Is there a process by which you are ill, you are terminally ill, either you're at home or you're in constant need of medical care? Is there a process by which someone can stick the hand up and say, look, is there any chance you can get me to Priscilla Bacon?
We don't have a private ambulance.
No.
But yeah, the process.
Can you apply is what I mean. Can you?
So there is a process, of course, and with that, once someone is on an end-of-life pathway, they would be in communication with their doctors, consultants, and it's then a case of the individual expressing their wishes that they would potentially like to be in hospice. Some people don't want to go to hospice, some people want to remain at home.
Yeah. And
if you haven't got a complex condition, being at home is a perfectly viable option.
Is there another option other than yourself?
Other hospices in the county, there's Tapping House, which is out in the west of the county, not too far from Sandringham, and there are some beds in Beccles Hospital, which is supported by St Elizabeth's out of Ipswich. And so there are other options within Norfolk, but we would generally deal with the most complex cases, potentially from across the whole county.
Yeah. And is there any new exciting things coming up? I don't know, is there a new bit of kit you're expecting, or a new wing?
We're not building the new one.
Yeah, the summer house out front there.
So yeah, we are always looking for ways in which we can support new people, and there are projects up our sleeve. We've just received some funding in the last week or so for 2 new projects which are going to be launched in the very near future. One of those is a smaller capital project, but anyone can help in any different way. Whether people want to put pennies in a collection tin in a local pub or shop, whether people want to make a monthly donation, which helps with cash flow for us as a charity, whether people as a business want to be part of the 500 Club to play their part in that community. That's great. Whether people want to run for us, throw themselves off a plane, have a coffee morning, whatever it is, people can get involved and make a difference. And so keeping that money coming in means that we can not just deliver what we've already established in the first 18 months of being open, and goes with our plans for the future of helping more people in different ways.
Great. And anything you want to specifically ask our listeners, or other than joining the 500 Club, which I hope every business owner watching is going to want to do from now on. But obviously it's running the marathon and volunteering if you wish. But is there anything specific you could maybe have help with? Like we helped you with the comms and stuff like that. Is there anything you need at the moment specifically? Or
we're always happy to have any conversation, because every time the phone rings, you never know what direction that's going to go in. And, whether it is someone wanting to talk about leaving a legacy, because ultimately we will need funds, not just now, but
and there's going to be leaner periods, of course, as well, aren't they?
Absolutely. And it is a challenging market for all charities at the moment. Everyone is feeling the pinch. Charities have then got the added impact of the increased NI and the living wage, and of course we have to look at those to accommodate those. But even as a small charity, that's tens of thousands more that we need to raise each year. That's more money to raise, but no net gain for our patrons.
And most of the contributors to that donations are facing the pressure themselves. So
exactly. So it is a squeeze, and we're incredibly grateful for whatever support people are willing to do.
So, guessing as you are operating like a business, what sort of processes, what sort of marketing, what sort of things can you do to get in front of people and get word out there? I suppose I know you do social media quite well, and other things like that. Yeah, you do the networking, obviously, but is it just
we have to be present and in people's minds, and charities historically will come in and out of popularity when different things are happening. If there's a capital campaign, certainly Tapping House had it. Staggering Children's Hospice, they had it as well when they were doing their builds. We've had our build, so there is an ebb and flow for charities, but we always need to keep it increasing those. And so social media, marketing collateral, website.
Do you have like a marketing spend, and do you spend it with a marketing company, or is it down to yourself?
We do it in-house.
I mean, I'm just speaking hypothetically as I would from a business owner's point of view, but can you look at investing some of the money donated towards those things, and would it benefit you long run? Would there be a return on investment?
Well, for the first time in our sort of operational history as a charity, we now have someone designated to marketing, which is lovely, because they can capitalize on what we've achieved already and grow and improve, rather than it being something that has just been dealt with internally by the team. So that's a nice addition. And
I'm also thinking, probably already, I'm sure you've already thought of this, but asking for free advertising in places, I guess.
I mean, if some
again, it's something somebody can give to you without actually, receiving payment or without actually giving up much more. I'm just trying to think what sorts of organisations offer advertising space and things like that. That might be
and any way in which we can spread the message, whether we're going out and doing a talk to a WI, a Rotary group, or just increasing awareness about the charity, because it's not just about fundraising. We want to raise awareness always about the service that we're giving. And so for people to have understanding of what a hospice is, what it does, have that awareness, it's a really important thing, because if someone's had a late diagnosis, particularly, you suddenly have to mobilize and find out what needs to happen to your loved one. And it's a shocking time when a terminal diagnosis has been given. And if there's an awareness about what we do, and you're now an ambassador for us because we've known each other a number of years, you've seen the facility, you've been there.
Well, I have to say, even before that, I didn't really get it. I didn't really understand. Obviously, I'd heard of Priscilla Bacon, but until I think you came along to Lunch Club and presented, showed us the plans for the building. I think even I wasn't the only one thinking, how the hell are you going to afford to build that just by donations? It was
but you're an ambassador. So if a friend of yours in a business group, the pub, had a loved one who'd had a diagnosis, you would be able to say, this is the place, it's beautiful, lovely gardens, all the parking, very easy to access, great coffee, great sausage rolls. You would be able to say that. So that takes away a level of discomfort for that family member. And the more people who see it, the more people who come to us, the more people who hear about it, they can spread that message. So as well as fundraising, that is really important, to make sure people understand that it's a space for everyone. It's not a private hospital. It's not just for white old people. It is a space for all religions, all classes, all genders, everybody. And hospice care is given and received to anyone who requires it. It's a wonderful movement across the country who delivers that with that same ethos. And hospices don't compete against each other. They support each other, best practice, techniques. It's a wonderful movement to be in, because it's all for that same goal of helping people at end of life.
Just touched on, before we start the camera rolling, the men's shed, was it? Tell me more about that. That was...
So this is a project that we hope to be up and running with for next year. Men's Shed is a really important international movement. The remit being that men traditionally find it easier to talk in an environment where they're doing something together, whether it's woodwork, metalwork, fixing items. And with that, they have a safer space to communicate. And with an aging population in Norfolk, it's an area where we feel we can support more people, not just those who've received end-of-life care at the facility, but through the wider community. If they can come and be part of a men's shed at the new Priscilla Bacon Lodge, then again, it's helping more people.
So I'm just trying to think if some of us Lunch Club people might be wanting a part of that. Well, we're all getting on a bit now, but you say that, it's interesting how, we're a men-only group, and it's actually only over the last 2 or 3 years, I'd say, that I'm actually hearing conversations about men's health and mental health, and that would be unheard of 5 years ago, let alone 10, 15 years ago.
And I think
it's totally changed.
We're the last vestiges of a generation where mental health is not something that we talked about.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's really good to hear that that at Lunch Club that those conversations are happening, and it needs to be happening across folk from their 50s through to their 80s, 90s.
I'll tell you this story. I think I've said it before with a previous guest, so apologies if you heard the story before, but we had Jamie Mulhall come in and tell us about his experience with prostate cancer. And he just told us all what went on, what battle he done and how he survived. And then he kind of all got us to pledge, if you like, to go and get tested. And we did. And there's a room full of 50, 60 mature gentlemen, shall we say. And out of those 3 people showed signs of something worrying anyway, one of which went on to have further treatment and was given the all clear about 6 months later. So,
I mean, and
what happened 10 years ago for one.
Prostate is one of the cancers that, if it's caught early and dealt with, there's a very positive prognosis for that. And men just ignored health, mental health, physical health. It's unfortunately our upbringing, our age, and so you're doing important work there at the lunch stop.
It seems so now,
breaking those barriers. And same thing with the men's shed. So it's a project that we had on our 3-year plan, and the ball is just started to roll on that. So it is a project that we will need support for, some capital costs there for building the shed, equipping the shed. So as time goes on, actually, for businesses that might have tools that they don't need, or could support us with tools and items that we'll need for equipping the shed, it's a way that businesses can support and to help without
absolutely. Sounds good. Well, I think that just about covers everything. I don't know if you've got anything to add, but
It's just to say we also got retail shops, got 9. Got 9 across Norfolk at the moment. So it's even just going in there, donating, buying.
And that can be what sort of stuff?
Any items. We don't take clothing is a big one, books, children's toys. We just don't take large electrical items at the moment, but even small electrical items we can now take. So and there's donating at our warehouse in Drayton Monday to Friday, or going to one of our other shops as well.
And I understand you can volunteer to be in the sorting warehouse.
In the sorting warehouse as well. So
that's actually probably quite fun, I imagine, just doing all this old stuff. But I want that one.
Well, this is a charity shop day, just said, brand new jacket, happy days.
I think I gave you about 10 suits last year. I can't pay it anymore.
Another thing is we do have a house clearance service as well. So again, that is a full go-in, deal with the whole
and van as well. I didn't know that.
So that was in
fairly recent.
That is fairly recent. Last summer.
I got the estate agent, so we might be able to use that.
That's a very good connection with estate agents. So that's something else. And with the charity retail operation, it's not the old-fashioned style of charity shops where you'd go in and there'd be a sort of mothbally grey suit. The shops have really nice kits in them, and everything is assessed. So the best items would go on using our online operation. So your Bowden dress or whatever would end up on eBay or one of the other platforms. And then we have relationships with an auction house in Norfolk. So a really beautiful Japanese vase, 19th century Japanese vase, was given, that came in with just a random collection, anonymous donation, and that went up to Bishop and Miller in Blandford, and they do a very good service for us out of a personal connection, and so don't charge commission, and that raised over £3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that,
I wonder if that was still been given, if they realised it was. Well, it's years.
The thing is, you have to be really diligent checking the kit to make sure you don't.
Absolutely.
If that had gone into one of the shops,
you can't train everyone, especially volunteers sorting fair stuff.
Anything that is potentially interesting, it's immediately hived off, and then the research is done. So you have to be careful.
Absolutely. Well, that just about wraps it up for me anyway. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you both, and if I can urge our listeners really to maybe have a look on the website initially, because it's a stunning building, absolutely beautiful. And honestly, it's a shame what goes on there, but it's obviously doing a lot of good. And I cannot, the times I've spoken to people that have had relatives or loved ones pass through the building, even years gone by, that what they've done for that period of time has been, you can't put a value on that to what it gives back. So do please consider the 500 Club as well if you're a business owner, and certainly speak to me or contact me, and I'll put you in touch with Hugo and Amy here, and they can tell you more. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Danny. Pleasure as always.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
The Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.